Hey guys, welcome to That Game Show, the show that talks about all the stuff in the nerd world and all the stuff in between. I am your host, Chase Bunker. Joining me today, he is the half-Asian sensation. It's Curtis Coe.
Hello, everyone.
One name to rule them all, and without a webcam, so you just see one giant blank stare. It's Murph Murphy.
Or I'm a ghost.
No, Murph, while I'm editing the video, do you want me to actually, put the YouTube video with, a different picture, or do you want me to just make it this blank picture? Because I could change it to something different.
You got to make it Murph from Interstellar,
Yep.
or
There you go.
what's his face, Screaming Murph from Interstellar.
Okay.
Or Murph from The Perfect Storm. Everyone forgets about that
look
Murph.
at that.
Everyone forgets that Murph, huh?
I was just gonna do a duck with a cigar, like we originally were gonna do in episode 1, but that works
That's it.
too. Player 4, it's Daniel Clegg.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Today is our Game of the Year episode, but first, I've been meaning to talk about this for the past 2 weeks, and I keep forgetting. I tried out Guitar Hero Live. I tried it out with the new guitar, and it is awkward. I think it's
Really? Okay.
it's more awkward because, granted, I tried it at GameStop and it was all right. I tried it over at Best Buy and they had a little bit of a button issue, but I feel like with the original Guitar Hero controller, it was easier because it was just okay, I just have to hit these 5 buttons and that's fine.
So describe, because I know they went to a different system. It's no longer the 5 colored buttons, right?
Yes.
It's like two levels on 3 buttons.
Yes, and so you have
Is
on
that
top.
correct?
Yeah, on top you have the black buttons. On the bottom you have white buttons. They also have you can mash them both together and they'll be a black and white button. And you can also just strum without hitting anything, which is it's part of guitar.
Okay.
In terms of playing a guitar, it's accurate, but it's just it's so weird.
Accurate.
It's a quote. It's
unquote,
more
sure.
accurate.
Right.
Granted, I'm using that term very loosely, but it's in more or
Right.
less it is. It's I think it's awkward. It's awkward at first. Maybe if I
Right.
get to play it a little bit more and get onto the expert mode, it'll be more fun. But at the same time, it's I just prefer the old Rock Band. If I wanted the actual six string representation, I'd go play Rocksmith. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, so from what I've heard, and I've not played either of them, it seems that the Rock Band 4, right, is kind of went along and they said all your DLC is still here, everything that you still bought is still there. So I guess that's for the people who are bought into that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I guess Guitar Hero has unlimited songs for 24 hours for $10, I think is the pay model they're doing.
I have no idea how
really?
the pay model works.
Oh, that's
They have
interesting.
a live
That's
music
what-
video DLC thing, and
Right.
they're making it in a weird jumbled system. I can't quite
Right.
understand it.
Well, that actually kind of makes sense from a party game perspective. Did you also pay for the base game?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so you buy the base game, and then you've got people coming over for a party. So you pay $10 to have access to any song they could possibly want.
So kind of, it's a weird thing where there's only so many songs on their service, and then you just basically play over essentially what is the music video for that song.
Yeah.
Okay.
So MTV, I know MTV doesn't play music videos anymore.
No.
But you know what I mean. Haha, old joke.
Is it kind of like they have a specific set of songs and it rotates every day? Is that what you mean, or?
So I've not actually played this. I've only heard it described on podcast. So this is secondhand at this point. There's a streaming channel that you get on, and you can play whatever's streaming at that time, and everyone gets the same stuff, right?
Okay.
If you pay with these kind of microtransaction currency, which you can earn in game or you can buy at a reasonable rate, I'm sure, you can play a specific song. And then you can also pay the $10, and then for 24 hours you can play whatever specific song you want to. So this is more of the party mode.
Huh.
Okay.
That's very different. I like how there's sort of a live channel that you play along to, right? That's different.
Right. I mean, that gives you, the what is it like? It keeps it fresh. They could potentially keep it fresh if they keep up with the licensing.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. Absolutely. So here's sort of a comparison, Chase. In Hearthstone, we get these weekly brawl challenges,
Yeah.
right? So every week there's guaranteed new content for us to play through, keep us coming back to the game. This is a much higher speed than that. This is every couple of minutes you're getting a new song featured on the stream, but it's guaranteed newish content, right? They might repeat songs, I suppose, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, they definitely are repeating
the radio, obviously. But every time you log in, you could theoretically get a new song to play through. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Like, I hope it pans out because I love musical games and stuff. Like, especially like anything that can like fulfill my Rock Band fantasy of or Rock Band dream of being a rock star. Granted, I take it too seriously, but
Chase, did you play the single player parts where you are taking part in you're in front of the crowd and all that?
Yeah, I did do. I don't think it was I don't know if it was technically the single player campaign, but it was more or less the. I played a song in front of a crowd, and the crowd got into it. And, when I was doing well, and they got really into it when I started sucking. They started taunting me and everything.
Right.
The one thing I thought was going to happen was they were going to have members of the actual band that the song I was performing, but they didn't. But
no, they don't.
Then I realized that's way too much work. It was still good.
Just way too much money.
Yeah. And so I hope it does well. I'd like to see where they're going to go with in the long run, but for right now, just getting used to that new system was just it was really awkward considering I was so used to 5 buttons and that was it. So,
right, the controller is just different for you.
Yeah.
I like the new pay model system though. That's interesting. That's different.
It is.
I actually think it's not that great, to be honest, because I mean the whole reason you pay money is to get the song, right? So
yeah,
right. So it's but I mean, so the alternatives still exist out there, like Rock Band, or what is it? Rock Band 5 is out there, and if you want to do it that old way, that still exists.
Right, and this makes a lot more sense with the current manner in which people consume music. Most people nowadays don't buy CDs or even digital albums. They pay for a streaming service like Pandora or Audio or what's the audiobook one?
Audible.
Audible, right?
Yeah.
They pay for a streaming service rather than owning the songs, essentially, even digitally.
Yeah.
So this kind of makes sense. You're subscribing to a gaming channel, right, that you interact with, but it's kind of the same thing.
What the heck are you doing over there?
Sorry, there's something. No, I'm dealing with it.
Okay.
It's done.
Nice. All right. Anyways, Clegg, what were you saying?
That's pretty much it. I think it makes more sense given how people consume media today. This probably wouldn't have made sense 6 or 7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, definitely.
iTunes and Pandora and services like that.
Don't forget the Zune. Does that still even be made anymore?
A lot of those services died off recently, actually, but this is how people consume music. So makes sense to me.
Yeah. I remember I had a friend that was all in and went to Zune, and man,
how'd that turn out for him?
I think he still.
You can still use your Zune player, right? It's not just a bookshelf.
I guess in the same way you can also use your VCR, but at the same time, why would you ever use your VCR?
Because there's old VCR movies you have to watch.
Yes. All right. So we talked about that finally after 2 weeks of me saying we're going to talk about it. Now it's time for the big thing now. Game of the year. We've had a lot of great games come out. A lot of games really disappoint us, but we also had a lot of great games. So
this has been a really good year.
It has been. I think it's a lot better than 2014, considering 2014 we're this game isn't as glitched as the other, so we're going to vote for this one to be nominated. So, all right.
Well, I think there's still going to be some of that this year.
Well,
so.
Hearthstone was our game of the year last year, right?
Yes.
I think so. Yep.
Yes. I was very reluctant to have that be our game of the year, but you guys...
So a free-to-play collectible card game was the best game of 2014.
It was better than a glitchy Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that I think is a pretty accurate statement.
Well,
I mean,
we'll see. Yeah.
we talked about the reasoning, and you can
Right.
go back and watch it. But in short, is because we thought people would be playing that game for
So,
years and years to come.
Mhm.
Be pretty pleased with it.
and that's fair. Like I've dropped off a little. I'm still playing Hearthstone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
agree.
it's something.
And
that my
Chase, you're
girlfriend
playing
and I-
Hearthstone more than you were last year.
Yes, because I got a girlfriend now, and I introduced her to her because I thought she might like it, and then it kind of brought me back into it as well.
Doug gets
So-
claws into you.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm the only one that still isn't playing Hearthstone. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Much.
Like, I mean, I'm going to tell you this because I know your personality. Don't get into Hearthstone because we have that addiction with booster packs, and it's like, maybe if I just get one
Oh.
more.
See, I totally get it, and I was playing for a long time, but like I've never been very good at those type of games, so it's always kind of been one of those things where I can't think that far ahead to
Yeah,
win the
you don't
games.
really like the strategy. You don't like StarCraft or you don't
No.
like the Warcraft RTS. You know,
Mm-mm.
anything where you're planning
Well-
ahead strategy-wise, that's just not your thing. You know, and that's
Do we
Well,
want
the
to
best-
do we want to announce the nominees for
Yes, we
2015?
probably should.
Oh, I
Yes,
suppose,
yeah,
yeah.
we
or
probably
or
should.
do we just want to talk about the one that naturally transitions?
Anyways, so let's go through the list here. I have a list in front of me, and I'm just going to quickly read them off, and then we can spend a little bit of time with each one.
These are the
Okay.
big ones from this year.
These are the big ones from this weird year. In no particular order, we have Bloodborne.
Yeah.
We have Sibel. That I am pronouncing that correctly, Murphy. Or
That's
not
correct.
Sibel. Okay. Mario Maker. Until Dawn. Her Story. Witcher 3. Heroes of the Storm. Ori and the Blind Forest. Fallout 4. And Batman Arkham Knight.
All right.
That's a lot of good games.
It's a lot of good
Mhm.
games. Should we start whittling them away, or should we start saying why these games are amazing?
So you know what? I'll drop one off the list right now if you let me just say a few sentences about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
why don't we talk about each game and start with the ones we think should be cut, right?
So
Yeah.
I don't think Civil should be cut because I think it's an amazing game. But I'm the only one who played it. I think someone else watched it.
I watched it.
So the 30-second pitch is this is a very narrative-driven game about a relationship that forms in the types of relationships that form in an MMO. And to tell more would probably be spoilery. The gameplay mechanics kind of just evoke how grindy MMOs are, so they're not fun in a traditional sense, but quite frankly, I think they're appropriate.
By the
Yeah,
way,
that,
if
that
you're
was
watching
the
us,
part
if you're watching us via Twitch, feel free to also cast your vote on who you think should be Game of the Year as well. Tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we're right, etc. Curtis, continue.
So
that is where I had the problem with it. Is I watched somebody play a bit of Sibel, and the gameplay part, the movie part, was very interesting, and I found that to be really neat. And then they started playing the actual game, and I found that to be really boring, really kind of dry and not interesting at all.
So I think I'm not going to say so. All right, I'm not going to defend this very long, but I think one, it plays better than it watches. Two, it's not really about being like haha fun. It's more about that feeling you get when you have a dungeon on farm, and while you're simultaneously like video chatting and texting and doing all sorts of like the stuff that you do while you're playing an MMO. And I guess you have to have been in that kind of early aughts MMO culture, I guess, in order to kind of understand. So
I kind of understand it, but
So the game sounds fairly narrow in the audience it's playing towards, right? Those who are invested in the MMO more than anything else.
I think I would say it's also there's some value in anyone who's been in any relationship. So, but
Interesting.
I would say the people who will get the most out of that game are those who have played an MMO.
I agree.
It also almost sounds. I mean, I haven't played this, but it sounds like the idea and the novel concept behind this game as a analogy or a commentary on the MMO society is almost more interesting than the gameplay itself.
Yes, like
Yeah.
the narrative is much more interesting than the gameplay.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Now,
So cool concept, maybe not a great game, basically.
I would disagree because nope, I'm not talking. I'm just gonna let it die.
okay.
Without going into too much, I think honestly, I would have rather watched it as a movie, personally. But
Okay.
I'm just gonna let it die.
Yeah, we gotta keep these short.
Yeah,
right?
we gotta keep these short.
Yep.
We said 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure that was 30 minutes.
Yep.
All right, so I'll go. I'll talk about.
I will also. If you want, I'll drop another one off the list.
Which one?
I think this one's gonna go very quickly. I'm gonna actually drop Fallout 4 off the list.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I really like Fallout 4. But there are some issues with it, and I'm trying to think of the right word. I think it is in some ways, a narratively weak story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think it does a lot of things really well, but I think it does a lot of things very poorly as well.
And the things that it does really well, they did really well in Fallout 3 in Vegas. Like, there's not a lot of innovation in this game.
Correct. The big innovation is, you can make better guns and you can do this kind of cool thing, and the Wasteland isn't quite so ugly.
But like you did that in Skyrim with their Hearth whatever expansion.
Correct. And there's definitely some good stuff there, but ultimately when I look at these other games, I have a hard time. Okay, here's what it comes down to. I look at Witcher 3 and I look at Fallout 4. And I question which one I'd rather play, and it always ends up being Witcher 3.
Well, I want to say, like, go to your argument about the narrative thing. It's like some of the games that we have nominated are also Mario Maker and Heroes of the Storm, which have zero story whatsoever.
Correct, but this is an RPG. It's specifically meant
for story.
To have story, and there is story there. It is hard to find, kind of like Bloodborne or Dark Souls. Like, there's a lot of story going on in the background. But the everyday interaction with other characters in the game is kind of boring, to be completely honest.
Like, this is a very good Fallout game.
Yes.
I think this would have won Game of the Year if it came out in the year that Fallout 3 or Vegas came out. It's not going to win Game of the Year in 2015.
I think it would have won last year, because I think last year was incredibly weak.
I think it would have won last year as well.
Right.
I think it's a very good Fallout game. It's done a lot. It's done some really cool stuff, but I question whether it's better than the rest of these games, and that's why I'm removing it from the list.
I want to remove.
Jason, you want to cut one?
I want to cut Batman Arkham Knight, and I know that I'm gonna get flack for this. Technically, I have not played it.
I don't care.
But it is the fact that the PC version had such a poor response. If it was best console game, I would definitely throw that in the mix. But because of the fact that it had such a poor release and it's just not as good, from everybody telling me, it's just not as good as Arkham City.
So,
Murph.
So yeah, I played it.
Mm-hmm.
I played it. It's not as the big innovation, which is the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Is not fun.
Okay.
So you're left with it's kind of just a bigger Arkham City, but most people like Asylum because it's so small and intimate. So.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Yeah, this one I think it's on there because good effort, but not good enough.
Yeah, I've come around on this one as well. We wanted it on the list because it's been reviewed so positively on the console platforms. But as a package deal, right? As a game that came out, it came out on multi-platform, and one of the platforms just tanked. Not because it was a bad game, but because it was a bad port, right? And they didn't have the support behind the PC release.
Mm-hmm.
And that just diminishes the overall presentation of the product. So, yeah, it makes sense to me. That we cut.
And PC problems aside, I don't think it would make the cut.
Yeah. And the other part of that I'd like to point out as well is, again, we go back to bad port, so on and so forth. Some people it still doesn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that speaks volumes for how lazy it was, in my opinion.
I don't want to call it lazy, but I think.
Well,
I don't think anyone was lazy. I just think it's a difficult problem, and they gave it their best.
True, but when you have a game that I'm sorry, there's no way you can't know it's gonna. Things are gonna happen.
I'm not saying. I just don't like the word lazy.
They rushed it.
Let
essentially.
me revise my statement. You put okay, this is probably just as bad as me saying the other one. So, I
Basically, what I want to say is this probably is not the dev's fault. This is probably some guys in a suit.
This is the person, whoever decided to put a smaller group of people on the PC version who was not experienced in porting things to PC. That is whoever is to blame for this.
All right.
And whoever looked at it and said, yeah, it's running poorly, or we sped up the video to make it look like it's running 60 frames a second, that is their fault as well.
Right. It's good enough to go gold now, and we'll release a day one patch.
Correct.
And hopefully that fixes it. Right. So you're right.
Is it too late?
The DLC has basically said it's sloppy DLC. Yeah. It's garbage.
Is it too late for me to cast a vote for Tales from the Borderlands to be Game of the Year? No? Yes? No?
I didn't play it, so I hear it's
I
good.
Have heard nothing but good things about that game too.
It's great, especially there's one scene in episode 4 that is so memorable that is just like, this is just
Can
perfect.
I ask you a question, Chase?
Yes.
Have you finished it?
Yes.
You have finished.
Yes.
Let's not drop it yet. Let's just keep it on the list.
Okay. I'm going to put it on there because I have heard nothing but good things about it as well.
Okay, we'll save that.
Let me give you my drop.
All right, what's your drop?
I think the next drop is Heroes of the Storm.
No, how dare you say you dropped that?
I love this game so much, but let me tell you why I think it's not Game of the Year.
Okay.
As much as they've done really interesting things with map variety and character design and whittling down the mechanics of a MOBA until they are new player friendly and just streamlined and fun, right? Mm-hmm. They've really nailed that MOBA genre for the new player. It's great. But it's still League of Legends Dota 2 at its heart, so I don't feel like they really innovated to such an extent that the game stands out to me.
Because
I still see the roots in these other games.
Technically, we can break that down with any game with its roots, but at the same time, I feel like with Heroes of the Storm has done something. Granted, I haven't played Dota 2, so Dota 2 might be able to do this as well. Heroes of the Storm has introduced new maps, new modes, and they give you a reason to come back. Like, here's the thing. We played League of Legends for almost 10 years now. How many maps do they have? 4. And
maybe 3, 4. Four maps?
Technically 3, because
maps?
no one plays Dominion anymore. But it's just the fact that it's like we were waiting on Magma Chamber for like 6 years now, and they've come up with nothing. They had made a 1v1 map because let's 1v1 bro it up. But instead, we've now got nothing. So I look at Heroes, and it's like with Heroes, it's a different experience. There are a little bit balancing issues, but like League still has balancing issues to this day. So that's why I think it more or less it revolutionized it by making it go back to its core system in a way.
So here's what I'm going to say. I say we don't drop it now, but I'm not going to vote for it for Game of the Year.
I really like Heroes of the Storm too, and I guess the question that rides me a little bit about Heroes is, honestly, I thought Smite was a little more innovative.
Yes, it is.
When we were dealing with like MOBA, and I think Heroes is a very refined game, and I understand where Clegg is coming from, and I understand where Chase is coming from. I don't think it should be dropped yet, though, to be completely honest. I think it deserves to be in the top 5, but probably not the top spot.
Chase, let me compromise so we can start dropping these things.
Yeah.
Which Ori and the Blind Forest or Hero of the Storm?
Ori the Blind Forest.
Staying on. All right then.
I think that is a fair.
This is fair compromise.
Now, okay, Murph, since you
now you got to argue for Ori and the Blind Forest. Right?
No, I have not.
No. I have a serious question for Murph. I think I don't like comparing these two, but I think they're Until Dawn or Her Story. I'm just gonna flat out.
Oh yeah, okay. So again, Her Story is this is me giving the eulogy for Her Story. Her Story was a great kind of cooperative experience that I had with my wife. It's a really different kind of narrative game, and it's going to be in my personal Game of the Year. But I recognize that this game is just not for everyone. So now also let me. So I'm going to say drop that, because you know what I did with Until Dawn on Halloween. We had a bunch of people over. I was controlling it, but I was getting the input from like 5 or 6 players, and everyone was yelling and calling various characters and being like, "No, we hate Emily. We love." Well, no one liked Jessica either, but
So your argument,
we like Matt.
that her story is
A party game, apparently.
well, no,
Or
that's
Until Dawn is
a party game, and it works very well in that setting. But her story is a much more quiet, contemplative game.
yes.
Okay, I agree with you. I think her story. I've actually played her story, and I think it is a very quiet. It's very different, but it kind of has very similar problems. Where I understand why it's a game, but at the same time,
It has the same. It has the Gone Home. It has the Sybil. It's not a traditional game, and so I think it's going to turn a lot of people off. But I think that I'm glad that these games exist, and I'm glad that they're kind of pushing the genre.
Okay.
correct. But at the same time, I think her story is overall just an enjoyable game as well.
Right.
I don't love it. I don't think it's game of the year, but. So you said Until Dawn over her story? Is that what?
Yep, that's
All right.
where I'm going.
So what are we left with right now, Curtis?
Right now, we have Bloodborne, Mario Maker, Until Dawn, Witcher 3, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Tales of the Borderlands.
All right. By the way, if you're just joining us, we are at That Game Show. We're talking about our games of the year right now that Curtis just rattled off. I'm going to ask this question.
So this is
Bloodborne or Witcher 3? If we're going to do this elimination process.
Compare the similar,
this is
titles. Try to pick out the superior.
I gotta give it to Witcher 3 on this one.
I gotta stand by my Bloodborne.
I mean,
I think someone needs to break the tie here.
Well, I would also give it to Witcher 3, and I say that because I have not played Bloodborne, right?
Oh.
I invested almost 100 hours in The Witcher 3, and we're going to have very different reasoning here. For me, The Witcher 3 deserves it because of the story. Now, Bloodborne doesn't have that overt storytelling, right? It's much more like Dark Souls, where it's more subvertive and you got to look for it.
It is, but it's slightly more overt than than Dark Souls, but not by much.
But not by much, right? And
Yeah.
Witcher 3 for me is the one game in the last 10 years that I can think of where the story and the characters specifically have grabbed me so hard that I find myself researching their backstories in my spare time, and I'm invested in this world and the relationships from the past games that I have not played. This game makes me think about the decisions I'm making really, really hard.
So let me make a hard cut here, because I think that Bloodborne is mechanically better than Witcher 3. And we can leave the story behind, but I'm also going to say if you throw Bloodborne under the bus because of that for Witcher 3, I think you're also going to have to throw Mario Maker under the bus as well, because like we said before, I think Curtis pointed out, that game's all mechanic.
it's true.
It has no story, but it makes no pretense of having a story either.
But
let's also
I have to
in
kind
Mario
of.
Maker's defense. Actually, you defend Witcher 3. I'll defend Mario Maker in just a second.
No. I'm going to actually defend Bloodborne
Okay.
against Mario Maker. Actually.
Oh, how dare you!
That's a weird comparison.
Betrayal!
No, I'm being serious. I like Mario Maker. I think it is an interesting thing, but I'm going to be honest. Against the other games on this list, I don't think that it is up to snuff with the other games. I think if I had to go with my two top right now, I would say it's probably Bloodborne and Witcher 3.
Your top two right
I
now
think
is
these
going to
two should be
are
the
those two
last
movies?
we argue.
Hmm?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Those two games are going to be those are your top two right now, are Bloodborne and Witcher 3?
Correct. I think those deserve to be there and deserve to be argued about last. I don't think Mario Maker is up to snuff. I understand why a lot of people like it, and I admit it's a great thing. But at the same time, when I look at these, I'm kind of ambivalent about Mario Maker.
Mario Maker.
First off, great choice
also,
of words. But the fact that I think with Mario Maker, it's the fact that there's literally zero story. But I think it's the fact that like every map you play is going to be different, and it's always fun, like running and like, oh, there's a hidden block. Well, you're a piece of crap for putting that there, but it's also funny at the same time. Like it mechanically, like has revived a platforming genre to where it's like, first off, you don't have to hack a Mario game anymore. Like, you can also take different Mario settings and utilize each one's different abilities upon that, and then, of course, make something cool and memorable. Like, there's been a lot of great levels to play, and a lot of great levels to watch. Sorry, Murph.
So here's where I'm gonna knock Mario Maker down, and maybe with this new update that's coming out, maybe they'll fix it. The curation tools are garbage.
Now, by curation tool, you mean when I log into the game to play, what map am I going to go jump into right now?
Right.
That interface, that tool that gives me something to interact with to play,
right.
is no good.
If I want to play my buddy's game or his level, I have to type in a 12-character code.
Oh, that's right. They're still on key codes. That's
wow.
dumb.
Now, supposedly there's a website coming that will help out with this.
That's such a Nintendo thing. The fact that you have to go to an outside source, to a website,
right,
to
and then
look up something. This is something from 10 years ago.
There's no tags on levels. You can't say, like, there's no way to know if a level is an auto player beforehand, or if it's this type of level or it's that type of level. Like, there's no categorization. Really, the only thing it can do is show you the most popular levels. I think you can also follow certain creators, but to do that, you still have to get a 12-digit code.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. There's no friends list integration.
Okay.
I mean,
this is a symptom of Nintendo's backwards technology, just in general, right?
All right, knock it off.
So,
that's
a
game killer for me as well. I would think I'd forgotten that was a.
I can't argue against that. It's fun and all.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's just poor. Okay.
Now, by the end of the year, that might be fixed, but right now,
yeah.
Jeez. Mechanically, what do you have a problem mechanically with Witcher 3? I guess is my question, Murph.
So I haven't played a lot of Witcher 3. I've just kind of goofed around and saw some videos, but it doesn't seem in Bloodborne. I guess it's mechanically, I would say Bloodborne is a very actiony, very reactive kind of thing, and Witcher 3 is more traditional RPG. And if I'm gonna, I'm not saying oh man, Witcher 3 has bad mechanics. This is not that argument at all. I'm just saying I like the combat in Bloodborne better.
I would say it is certainly more basic than what I'm seeing from Bloodborne. You have less immediate and direct control of your character. Animations are very, very fluid, very constructed, but he always swings the same way. He always jumps back the same distance. He has set parameters that action takes place in, I suppose. Bloodborne seems a little more open and fluid, sure. But I think the rest of the systems outside of combat are very solid in Witcher 3. The crafting, the leveling up system, the world, everything is really solid.
We probably could make this.
Let's get rid of the other.
Let's hold off on this debate because it seems like we could probably talk about this for about a few more minutes. We don't have much time. Yeah. We still have Tales from the Borderlands, Ori and the Blind Forest. We knocked off Mario Maker. Until Dawn is still there. What am I missing?
Oh.
It's Bloodborne, Until Dawn, Witcher 3, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Tales of the Borderlands.
We haven't talked about Ori yet.
Now the knives come out. The knives are coming out.
All right,
guys.
the knives are coming out.
Yeah, I mean,
I just confiscated one the other day. Okay. So Ori and the Blind Forest. I'll make this argument for why it should be Game of the Year. First off, it is a very beautiful game. Immediately you look at it, it's very easy on the eyes. The story's pretty good. It's not the greatest story in the world, but it's still a very good story, and it's very emotional. You get a little bit choked up in the end. I thought all the abilities were very cool. How, I need to get this. It's very what's the proper term? Metroidvania, where it's you have to go back to a little bit later. You have to do the level up system. All the puzzles are very unique. It's a very cool, beautiful, well executed game. And I think it was once again made by oh gosh, the name escapes me. I don't care right now. It's a very beautiful game. I feel it's done something in that previous games just haven't done in a very long time. So that's my vote for it right now.
Moon Studios.
What is it?
Moon Studios.
Moon Studios. Thank you. Gosh, I'm sorry, Moon Studios.
So I hate to say it, but I think this might suffer the Tales from the Borderland problem, in that like I heard all these great things about it, and I saw the stuff. I'm just not like I'm not really pumped to play it.
I mean, look, I will say this: like, if we're
I mean, I
gonna
could
go
say the
between
same
Tales
about-
of the Borderlands and Until Dawn, I'm gonna go with Tales from the Borderlands. To be honest.
Well,
Huh,
really
okay.
quickly, Murph, you know, I have a counterpoint really quickly. Like you've talked quite a bit on the show about Until Dawn.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest, that does not sound interesting to me at all either.
Okay, I mean that might be true. Like this Until Dawn, kind of for people who like horror stories or movies.
Correct. And I mean, I kind of like that idea, but the more you talk to me about it, and the more we've talked about it, the less interesting it gets, I guess.
And
Is the
you know what? I will in order to take down Until Dawn, it is not as good in subsequent playthroughs.
Yeah. And I guess the question is, might be a random thing, but I mean, what are the flaws of Ori and the Blind Forest other than, you know, the story being a little bit weak, Chase?
I think probably one of the flaws, like, you know, there's some puzzles that just can be a little bit frustrating at times, because it's like, all right, I did this, and it's like, I thought I executed this properly, and it's, you know, it's my own fault, but it's like the fact that like certain puzzles just get so frustrating at times. And of course, there's also one area that you literally like can't go back to, and now I can't 100% it.
That's annoying.
It is.
Can we is a puzzle platform or a Metroidvania innovative enough to win Game of the Year in 2015?
But the question is, how many of these games that we are finishing up with here are super innovative?
Some of them are just polishing an existing system.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
In fact, I think all of them are.
Yeah.
I would say all of them are based on something that has already previously been done. For instance, Witcher 3 is a very polished RPG. Bloodborne, I don't know if we want to call it an RPG.
I mean,
it's a very polished Dark Souls.
It's a very polished Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Heroes of the
Tales from
Storm is a very
Borderlands
polished MOBA, right?
Yeah, Tales of Borderlands is
like,
polished.
A lot of these.
Wolf Among Us / Heavy Rain /
Yeah,
Right,
every
yeah.
other
That's
David
that
Cage game.
It's a no, it's a Telltale game. It's just that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
You know what you're
They're-
getting.
It's the Telltale genre. Like they make a type of game.
Correct.
Like
gotta
so
drop
that
one.
you got to. Oh God.
So what's the biggest problem with each one? And let's see which one's more egregious.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Bloodborne is perfect. No.
No. We're talking
Until
about
Dawn
Ori
and
and
Forest.
Oh.
the other one.
We've talked a lot about Ori. Kind of some of the flaws. There's some strange puzzles. There's some areas that you can't get
There's
back to.
replayability.
What is,
There's more replayability in Ori and the Blind Forest than there is with Until Dawn.
Like I'm perfectly willing to drop Until Dawn. I just
yes. All right. Cool. He's
I
willing to
think
drop it. Next.
I think
we don't have much time.
All right, down. Until Dawn's gone.
Can we agree? Here's the question: can we agree that Ori and the Blind Forest and Until Dawn are worse than the other three games?
So we got Ori, Until Dawn, Bloodborne, Witcher, Heroes.
Bloodborne, Witcher, Tales.
Oh, Tales. Okay.
I think we can agree that these games are not as good as the other top three. Is that agreeable?
And I really, honestly, I think we can kind of say that we can give Tales. I'm okay with giving Tales to the Borderland the nod at third, and just having this fight here.
I'm not a fan of this
final
fight because
fight.
I have Ori, and like Ori, I guess I can fight for Tales, but like I know that I'm not going to win the fight between Bloodborne and Witcher 3.
Here is my suggestion for the last three, and we did this last year, and I think, although it's not the best system, I think it is a system that, in this case, we're going to argue about these three games until we're blue in the face.
Right.
I think we should just sit down and we should say 1, 2, 3. This is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3 for each person, and then we give a point system based on each one. Okay. You get 3 points for first one. You get 2 points for the second place, and we can just tally it up, and then we'll know who won.
Let's highlight the worst thing about each game to help make that decision. Like, what's the most egregious mistake or problem the game has?
Bloodborne, hard as heck. There you go.
There's
There's negative on that one.
Lineup.
I don't think that's the biggest issue.
Yep.
Murph, what would you say is the biggest issue with Bloodborne?
The biggest issue with Bloodborne is that there's not a lot of builds. Like, a lot of the weapons are kind of samey. Like,
Okay.
not like and this is in a direct comparison to Dark Souls,
Mm-hmm.
where there's spellcasting builds, there's various weapon builds, and Bloodborne, they're all more or less the same.
Okay.
Like, there's a limited variety.
Okay.
That said, I'm still going Bloodborne first, Witcher second, Tales last.
Okay. I'm going to
Interesting.
tally points. Give me a second.
Are we
Witcher
only
3,
choosing between these
Blood-
3 games for first, second, and third?
Correct.
Yeah, I think
Crap,
so.
let me redo it. 'Cause
Because that'll...
I have Tails first, Ori
That'll...
second. So
Hold on.
Well, you got to give us your reason, Chase. What's the biggest problem with Tails?
the biggest problem
Since that's your
with
first place one.
Tails, I mean, it took me, like, I wasn't immediately hooked at episode 1. Like, it's like, okay, this is funny, but then it's like
7:30.
episode 2, it got better. Episode 3 got better. 4 was when I was like, wow, this is actually really, really good. I mean, it was the same thing with Wolf Among Us. Like, Wolf Among Us, like, we were like, okay, I'm slightly intrigued. And, like, when you're watching any other TV show, like, you give it a few episodes to try it. Granted, you have a much smaller sample size. But it's, to me...
It's a Telltale game.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's what I mean.
Story has
I always
ramp-up,
say, like,
essentially.
if you love any other Telltale game, whether it be Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, Game of Thrones, you'll love Tales from the Borderlands. If you love anything about Borderlands 2, pre-sequel, or anything about that, you'll love Tales from the Borderlands. If you love just, like, having a nice sit-down and, like, an interactive narrative story, you'll love Tales from the Borderlands because it executes everything so perfectly towards the end.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We got 3 minutes.
So,
Let's go.
what's Tails you gave first? What was your second pick?
I mean, it
Number
was
2,
Ori, but
Chase.
I have a feeling that's not going to be valid.
Within-
So it's going to be
Within
Witcher,
the 3.
Nope.
It-
Oh,
and then it's going to be Bloodborne. Because Bloodborne
And
to
then
me
Bloodborne.
just looks like Dark Souls 2. Like it's pretty much it's a Dark Souls, but for PS4 only, and that's it.
See, in Chase's
Okay.
mind, that's a negative. For me, that's a positive.
Play.
all right.
So I
for
say
me,
that just because
the
it's
biggest
just
problem-
it's a similar game, I guess.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
no,
okay,
I-
right,
I-
yeah.
All right.
We understand.
For me, the biggest problem with The Witcher 3 is that its gameplay can essentially be whittled down to 3 steps. You get a quest, which has fantastic dialogue and is very well written and fantastically voice acted and all that stuff. Okay. 2, you go into Witcher senses and follow a trail. 3, you fight a monster. And as well as they dress that up with different plot intrigues and characters and all of this wonderful world building, you essentially go into Witcher mode and follow a trail to go to your next
Yeah.
fight. That is
Okay.
really what the game is.
Yeah.
So if you try to look past this amazing story that they're distracting you with, it's a very repetitive game. And that's the one knock I have against it.
Okay. So what is
Fair.
your overall listing?
For me, I think I'm still going to give it to The Witcher 3, only because, Murph, Bloodborne, to me, loses it in that it is console exclusive.
Yeah. That sucks.
Part of a
that's
game
actually
appeal means it needs to hit a large audience.
No, that's a
Tales from the
completely valid
Borderlands is
criticism.
multi-platform. Throwing that fact out there.
So, number 2.
For me, is Bloodborne, and 3 is going to be Tales.
How dare you?
Okay.
Sorry,
How much
buddy.
money do I have to pay you to change that? vote?
Okay. So you guys already know what my number 1 is going to be.
Tails.
I can't give it to anything else but Witcher 3.
Dang
I
it.
mean,
Mhm.
I've played a little bit of Bloodborne. I've played a little bit of Witcher 3. There was one Bloodborne again. The reason why it's going to take a knock from me is because it's console exclusive, because I can't play it. So that's awful. And at the end of the day, I mean, the weapon differentiating kind of bugged me a little bit because I like to try to play through it a little bit different way. And I know I'm probably overthinking it a little bit, but that kind of bugs me a little bit too.
No, that's a very valid complaint.
Because I like to go back and play, I've tried range builds on Dark Souls and stuff like that. And I know there's that kind of build. So really quickly, I'm going to give the nod to Witcher 3. I'm going to give the second nod to Tales of the Borderlands.
I'll take it.
And I'm going to give the last nod to Bloodborne.
All right. So what's the tally?
The tally is Witcher 3's Game of the Year with 10 points. Bloodborne and Tales of the Borderlands are tied with 7.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not okay because
So our Game of the Year this year is Witcher 3. Our runners-up tied is Bloodborne and Tales of the Borderlands.
Wow.
All right.
You guys think this year in particular is going to be remembered in future years, kind of like we remember 1998, and it was just the year of fantastic games. You just got so many great releases.
No, 'cause
No.
I think
This was really solid.
No, because I think 2013 was probably like the next greatest year, and because that's
There's
when you
been
had,
a lot. There's been a lot of those years where like just big titles come out all at the same time, and they're kind of just because they're on similar release schedules.
Yeah, I mean,
think
like,
we're gonna see.
this year had like good
think-
releases, but I don't know.
I see 2016 being a fantastic year.
I agree.
That's very
and
observant.
we look forward.
All right, so
Look
that
forward
is
to
it
Overwatch.
for our show. So once again, Game of the Years for our, I guess, That Game Awards, we should probably call it. Thanks to Johnny Boy for naming that. Witcher 3, Game of the Year. We'll probably do best console game, all that other stuff on another episode at another time. Thank you guys very much for watching. Especially thank you to the Twitch viewers for checking us out. You can find us over on YouTube, youtube.com/thatnewshowshow. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thatnewshowshow. You can follow me on Twitter @ChaseBunker. You can follow the show on Twitter @that_game_show. You can follow Murph on Twitter @DorkNightShow as well. Check out Murph's YouTube channel as well, Maximum Tomato, with him and his friend Mike. They play video games, and Murph complains about them most of the time, but that's okay.
Hey, we're just doing Sonic Month. We're almost through it.
Then never mind.
Gotta
You
go
totally
fast
aren't complaining
through
at
Sonic
all.
Month.
All right. So check out other episodes, check out other videos that we've made, and other interviews that we have done. Other than that, Curtis, did I forget anything?
I can't think of anything, buddy.
Clegg, did I forget anything?
Good to go.
All right, Murph, did I forget anything?
I'm good to go as well.
All right, cool. So for Curtis Coe, Daniel Clegg, and Murph Murphy, I've been Chase Bunker. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Boy.